All right, so we've got our guest here, Dennis K. Chan, the designer of Beyond the Sun. Super excited to have him on, but he's played a couple of spicy hot games, and one of those games that I'd like to talk about is a game I haven't played. I've played the newest version of it, but you got to play the classic Dune, set in the universe of Dune. I think you played the newest version, the Gale Force 9 version. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. You mean the one that you're showing?
Yeah. You played this one.
I own the old one, but remember pandemic, so the old one doesn't get played.
So you played. You haven't played Dune Imperium yet. You've played the classic Dune.
I learned it online, but I haven't played it.
Okay. Yeah. So I actually haven't played the classic Dune. I think Bradley has. So we'll have to find out if anybody in the chat crew has played the classic Dune. Not Dune Imperium. Tell us about Dune and how it plays and how close it hews to the actual storyline by Frank Herbert.
It's just a really well, this is one of the examples where the game really fits the book, because the special powers, they just follow the game, the novel, and they fit the mechanic. It's not just forced it into the game. And it's very exciting. It's just you have these big swings in armies, and you can lose everything in one turn because someone is your traitor, or if you lose a battle, you basically lose everything except your leader. And if your leader is a traitor, you lose everything. So it's just these big swings and epic stories. So I know I didn't mention that I also like story, telling games, and that's not my main genre, but I like Euro games that will become a story when you play it. And I'm very happy that Beyond the Sun kind of did that, because we would sometimes after a good game will be you storm the whole galaxy and then you decimate it because you just settle down and then other people pick off. So kind of doing this the same, we just made it into a story. Okay, you rose in power and then you kind of left, and then other people took it, and then so it's fun both in mechanically, and also it fits the theme, and also it creates great stories afterwards.
How does it play exactly? What kind of mechanics does it use? Is it your typical conflict where there's area control or area majority, or how does that work?
It's not necessarily control. Well, to win, you do have to control 3 of 5 cities if you're not in alliance, and 4 of 5 cities if you are in an alliance. But you don't count points. There's no points. You either win or not. And the battle is there's no dice. I just want to say I don't like dice games.
And yet you invented the dice game.
Dice placement is fine, but
it's
rolling dice is not fine.
We're going to talk about this later, but there is one element, Steve, where you actually roll a dice just once during the game. There was a card I played, and it let me roll a dice. I was so happy. But no, I'm like you. I love dice placement games, but Dune doesn't have dice that it's determined after combat.
It's almost like bidding. It's a bidding for combat. So you have the army, and you have let's say 5 versus 8. And whatever you bid is lost. So do you really want to bid all of yours and just to outbid the other one, but then you weaken yourself? The person with 8, if you bid 5, I'm just simplifying it. If you bid 5, you'll win, but then you lose 5. You only have 3 left, and next round you're going to be in a weak position. And then there's an additional element, which is you can add a tile to your bid, which is your leader, which also has a number on it. But you don't know which one you're adding, so you have to guess. And on top of that, you can play cards to kill the other person's leader. So now it's back down to the base number. So it's bidding, but it's mathy, and you have to guess. It's a little bit of bluffing too. So it's the battle is so simple. It's just math, but then there's multiple levels of bluffing in it.
Now, Steve, you've played Dune, right?
I have, yes.
How was your experience?
My individual experience with it was probably for the first hour and a half or hour and 45 minutes or so, not so great until somebody betrayed somebody else and needed a new alliance, and I was there. But for the most part, it was a 5-player game we were playing. Dennis is absolutely right. It really does capture the nature of the game. When you're out of an alliance, you're kind of sitting alongside Dune. You're off planet. You're waiting for somebody to turn on somebody else. So that as the 5th player, and you can only have one alliance with one other player, there's somebody left out. That was me, the Emperor.
Yeah.
Waiting for the end, and the Emperor got back in and had an alliance, and then shared the victory at the end.
But
So
you have an easier
it was thematic right on top of that. Thematic.
without an alliance. You actually have an easier path to victory, though, with less planets.
Yes,
cities.
to an extent, but there's also they are so much stronger in alliance because the shared information that they can pass back and forth. Being left out of an alliance leaves you weaker. Yeah, you have to do less to get the victory, but it's going to be harder to do that less.
Yeah. And this is one of the flaws of this game, which is you have to play with 6 people. And it usually ends up with 2-2-2 as the alliance because you cannot have 3-player alliances. But given this game was made so long ago, it's so well done. Like, games have progressed a lot, and this is what from the 80s. So like it was so well done then, and we have gained so much knowledge since, and it's still persistent. There are some rough edges like the alliances. It's a little rigid, but otherwise it's still fun.
Negotiation is in there too, because you have to make the alliance. But fortunately, even by being that 5th wheel, like you were saying, Dennis, the Emperor's power, if I remember correctly, was being able to conjure money to provide resources in that sense. We got to the end where one team needed resources and was happy to betray somebody else to take my money and share the victory. So I did not have the greatest game for most of the game, but managed to sneak in and ride in on Kevin's coattails at the end.
Yeah, Bradley talks about following up what you said about the different factions. He says the asymmetry of the factions is where Dune, the original we're talking about, shines, and that's almost completely from the actual story of the novels.
Yes,
it gives a great link between the game and the books, and that's what I want out of a game that's going to be based on IP. I don't want it to just be a Monopoly slapped with Halo on it. I want it to actually remind me of the books.
So here's a question back to you. What do you think of Dune Imperium? Even though I haven't played, is it just a slap on, or is it?
Well, so Amy said the bidding combat sounds similar to Dune Imperium, and it really is from that aspect. It's not dice rolling. It's bidding more in the way of, as Alex said on the Dukes of Dice podcast, bidding more in the way of like Scythe, where you just you don't know how much to commit because it's perfect information as to what is inside. I don't remember the name of the little desert area where you do the conflict, but there are cards and powers you can play, and people can overcommit at that point. It also has the Everdell mechanic where you play and play and play until you pass. Well, then as soon as someone sees you pass, they know exactly how much they need to put in power in the conflict, and they can go up against you. So, how much do you put in to bluff with them, not knowing that you have some intrigue card that can really win the battle? So that thematically reminds me, I haven't read the book in many, many years, but that reminded me of that interplay between the houses and the scheming and the alliances and the backstabbing and all that. I need more plays in it to get to figure out whether the card play at the top, the market that you're buying for, and the different things, whether that is really thematically like the game. Of course, influencing all the different factions, which is a major part of the game. You could skip. I didn't do any conflict at all. I mean, I maybe won one conflict. I was focusing more on influence, and to me, that feels thematic to the books. The Spice Must Flow card is just a way to just plop down some whatever the resources are and get points. So that's kind of like the book also. I mean, whoever controls the spice is going to control the planet. At least in the first book. I never got past the first book. So I'm not sure, but I think Dune Imperium does not feel like just here's the board game with a Dune picture of it. It feels like thematically tied back to the game. So One of these days, I'd like to play Dune. Lots of people have played the Rex, which is the Fantasy Flight version of it, when they kind of steered it toward Twilight Imperium. I don't know. Any of you play Rex?
No.
I've heard of it, but
yeah,
I
have not played that yet. Dean says he's been listening to the books to prep for Dune Imperium. Yep, that's not bad. Wow.
The audiobook for the original Dune is good. It's a good performance too.
Yeah, and Bradley says 1979. The original Dune game came out in 1979. And with 6 players, it sounds like it actually still holds up, Dennis.
Yeah,
right?
It does. Yeah. People still play it. So.
Well, Nick says he's played Dune Imperium a bunch, and the worker placement spots is very thematic, true to the to the different factions and the characters from the book. And of course, they also use artwork. Instead of being stills from the movie, they use artwork that gives you the flavor of the characters from the movie. So that's kind of cool. I think for some reason, Steve, when you see actual pictures from a movie or stills, it almost takes you out of the game.
It does.
Right? I don't know why that is, Dennis. Why is it if I see the actual still shots, it takes me out?
I don't know. Like the Battlestar Galactica game, I would rather not see it just, I don't know, it makes it look cheap. I don't know why. It's just how I feel.
It doesn't translate to cardboard, I don't think, right?
Yeah.
Well, this is not the way in Dune Imperium. The actual artwork resembles the actors, so you're going to recognize them. And that's the original Dune with a little mixture of talking about Dune Imperium coming out.